everyone. Thanks for joining us here on GoLocal Live in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. Our friend, GoLocal columnist, Bob Whitcomb joins us today. He brought his coffee out, but he didn't bring me one.
To warm my hands. You can have some. I'm just getting over cholera, so don't
No, I don't want your cholera coffee.
Okay, and Joe's got a medical degree.
It sounds like a new fancy latte, cholera
right.
coffee.
Yeah, cholera coffee, right.
All right, so let's talk. There's been a lot of fun stuff happening just coming up, so we're going to dive right in.
Sure.
Something fun, we want to start off with your reaction to all the fun that's being had in Washington. Mike Wolf's new book, Fire and Fury Inside the Trump White House. So I've been reading a little bit about this. I've been listening to all the media scrutiny about this.
Certainly a lot of frenzy in the media about this. I would say
Yeah.
Michael Wolff is certainly a very hard-working journalist. He can't always be relied upon. I believe he's done a lot of writing for New York Magazine, which I used to subscribe to. So he can sometimes stretch things a bit. I mean, stretch the limits of, sourcing and this kind of thing. Having said all that, he is also something of a serious journalist, very hardworking, and from what he writes in the book, from what we've heard, I haven't read it yet, so I don't want to be even glibber than I usually am, but I think he's basically on point. I know quite a bit about Trump, more about his business career, having followed it for 40 years, and this sort of mafia-like family that he has, that helping run the Trump organization, and he's, as everybody knows, it'd be difficult to find even one of his lackeys who is not willing to say off the record he is a industrial strength narcissist. With Trump, everything is about Trump. And he does think that's true, and he also does pretty much everything by the seat of his pants. And so the behavior and the opinions that Wolff quotes sound about right. It sounds very much like Donald Trump. When Donald Trump was running basically a large, sprawling, but secretive family organization, he could get away with this behavior. Everybody was afraid of him. There was no balance of power. There were no divisions of power, judicial, legislative, executive. But now it's a lot more complicated if you're president. And he reminds me of what Truman said about Eisenhower, Dwight D. Eisenhower, when he came in. He said, well, he's going to sit in the Oval Office and say, do this, do that, nothing's going to happen until he learns how to use the system. And Trump still is. I think maybe the more troubling thing is there are signs of almost psychotic behavior, very irrational behavior beyond the narcissism, and maybe some age-related issues. Not that I should talk about age-related issues, God knows I have enough myself. But, memory, a seemingly shrinking vocabulary, signs of confusion. So anyway.
So
very exciting though.
I mean, I think this book is probably going to sell a lot, regardless. What I found interesting was I read this on USA Today. Wolff himself said that the details in the book are, quote, are in conflict with one another, and that many are, quote, badly untrue. So
Trump said that.
No, Mike Wolff said this.
Untrue.
He said this about his own book.
Oh, you mean the people he was talking to contradict each other?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's true, and I think that he was good to say that.
Yeah, so I think
it's chaotic. Absolutely, Molly. It's a very good point.
So I think he's leaving readers to themselves to decide what's true and what's not true.
Yeah, and I think people in Trump's staff, the people wandering around, the way he reported some of this basically involved sitting on a sofa and then catching people as they walk by in the West Wing. But I think that's a good point. I think if he says this, then I think that's good guidance for the reader. These people are contradicting each other, as a lot of people would anyway, but more so in a setting that is so intrinsic, that is more chaotic than usual for a new administration because of the way Trump operates.
Exactly.
So
are you going to read it?
I'm not sure.
Undecided?
I want to read. I want to read some more thoughtful reviews of it from the left and the right, and then I'll decide whether I think I'd learn anything from it. Again, I know more about Trump as a businessman than as a politician. He's sort of covered him a bit as a business editor, and as speaking as a former New Yorker, I know something about his background, and it's I have to say it's not a pretty picture.
It is interesting, I have to say, to get any insider perspective on any White House, on any administration, just because we don't always have the knowledge. So
Well,
just
and
to
a lot of
find
it
out.
has to be off the record. There's some
Exactly.
serious confidentiality issues here. There could be some national security issues involved where certain people really are not free to talk freely.
Yeah, that's true.
There's certainly an element of that, and it's new, and people are afraid of every president. I think they're especially afraid of Trump because Trump is a very revengeful character.
That's very true.
So you have to be very careful about this. I think the overall picture, as described in the media, since the book was rushed into print, by the way, it's rushed
It's out
into
today.
print.
They bumped up the publishing date. Or
For
bumped
one,
up the release
they're
date.
afraid of some sort of restraining order, even though I don't think that the administration would get that because that'd be a prior restraint thing, and that's even conservative, the Republican and the Republicans in the Supreme Court would tend not to like prior restraint. But the other thing is, when Trump, they want to take full advantage of Trump threatening to sue them and to stop it, which of course boosted sales. It reminds me of back many years ago, Boston was famous for censoring or banning books or shows which had sexual references in them, and it was called Banned in Boston. It was the old Puritan and also Roman Catholic diocese tradition of Boston. And of course, a publisher would like nothing more than to be banned in Boston.
Ban it.
And I think Trump is a media guy, is a reality TV guy, and he's pretty savvy about this stuff. I was rather surprised that they threatened to do that, to get a restraining order against it because it would boost sales.
Yeah, exactly. All
And
right.
the publisher took advantage of that.
Yeah, why not,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
What is that? What is that saying?
Henry Hole.
All press is good press, whatever that's.
Oh yeah, there's no such thing
as bad PR or
bad
something
PR,
like that.
right? Everybody would be famous for 15 minutes.
Yeah, something like that.
Right.
Okay. All right, let's move on.
Sure,
So
yeah.
to that, to Mr. Attorney General Jeff Sessions,
Yeah.
who sent out a memo yesterday saying that he wants to go back to pre-Obama marijuana enforcement. So California just issued recreational marijuana as of January 1st, and Massachusetts wants to put their recreational marijuana into, I think it's July. So let's talk a little bit about this, your thoughts on Mr.
I
Attorney
think
General's...
in a sense Sessions, right. By the way, I should say
Sessions.
my view about marijuana, which I tried back in the late 60s, but along with 75% of the rest of the population under 30, is I do think it's a gateway drug for some people. I don't think it's harmless. It's being presented as being harmless. It isn't. And I don't want to drive around the road with a lot of stoned people who are also texting. And
Okay.
the other thing is there are federal laws against this, and the government has basically been looking the other way, with so-called medical marijuana and all that. And I think, and not going after the states have been allowing this, and I really think that in a democracy, it's much more credible if we change the law instead of trying to skate around it. And a drug law like that most drug laws like that are federal laws, and I think the state should wait and for the feds to change the law. So in a sense, I kind of agree with Sessions on that. You could say there are a lot of other more important priorities, which there probably are, but I kind of, in Sessions' case, I sort of think he's got a point. I think he's kind of against marijuana because he probably thinks it's left-wing too, or something like that. I think there may be a kind of ideological element. But it is on the books, these anti-marijuana laws. They've let the states skate around these laws, which I think tends to spawn cynicism. You have a law in the book, you don't enforce it. I don't think that's very good
So
for a democracy.
what about that thought of less government?
Yeah, less government.
That
well,
whole
depends,
idea and
yeah.
philosophy of less government.
Libertarian?
We'll just letting the states do their
Oh, you
own
mean
thing.
like states' rights?
Yeah.
Well,
And here's all these states
yeah.
that are trying to implement.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of laws are state, domestic laws, mostly state law, even though the U.S. Supremes came in and ordered, gay marriage, that was okay. This kind of push and pull, it goes back and forth, how much authority to give to the states, how much to the feds. We do know that federal law always supersedes state law. And we do know federal law is tougher than most of the states on the marijuana thing. So, and we do know that the federal government has the right to legislate drugs. So I think it ought to be done at the federal level. I don't think the state should be doing that. I think, it's easy to cross the state line. This is interstate commerce.
Especially in New England.
Yeah, especially in New England where you can walk. I mean, not in this weather, but,
Some people have to. Some people
Yeah,
are out walking.
I know.
You're out walking. It's an issue. I was listening to NPR today, and they had people calling in, people from Oregon,
You were
and
listening
Washington.
to that communist story?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
And they had people, and they were
Yeah.
specifically talking about this issue and talking about Jeff Sessions, and they had people calling in from states that had already passed, and people in Oregon were saying, you take this away, you're taking our tax dollars, you're taking our, and so it was interesting to get perspective from states that had already passed recreational marijuana, and they're saying, these tax dollars have really helped our economy. They've helped.
Well, I think that's amusing. Yeah, right. It's like legalizing all forms of sports betting, which they want to legalize.
I don't know.
A lot of this is actually about money. It's like cigarettes. We all condemn cigarettes, but of course, government gets huge amounts of money from cigarette taxes, and the states, especially with changes in the federal tax code, are looking at this as a supplementary source of income. A big one. I think in California they're talking about $1 billion more a year in revenue, and a lot in Massachusetts. And so a lot of this is not about public health or about alleviating pain. And marijuana can be helpful in some areas of apparent pain relief, but it's about money. And this is sort of a rhetorical hypocrisy going on here. Yeah. But I think the most important thing, this is a drug, and it ought to be regulated at the federal level. If we don't like what the Republicans are doing with it or what Sessions done, wait until the Democrats take over.
Wait until the next person comes in. Okay, next topic, I want to talk to you a little bit about, recently I read in your column that you read a book, and so...
I read, probably the first book I've read in my life, in fact.
No, you wrote in your column that you used to eat octopus and enjoyed it, but now you don't because you read a book called The Soul of an Octopus. I am currently listening to that book on audio tape, and I have a new fascination. My water bottle's an octopus. I have a new fascination with octopus, and it's not because
it's a cross promotion with the book, right? Everything's commerce, right?
I don't know.
Everything's for sale.
I got that. But talk to me a little bit about this book and why it changed your opinion. I mean, I think octopus are fascinating creatures. They're insanely smart.
They are very smart.
The book is so good. If you haven't read it, I'm actually going to try to interview the author. But talk to me just a little bit about how it changed your opinion.
Well, I didn't think of by the way, you say octopus is not octopi.
Yeah, right. I know. We learned that from the book.
That's in the book there. I think they do obviously have a kind of intelligence. They have emotions. They have memory. And so I thought, that's why I don't want to eat them. That's why I don't like to eat, cows and pigs and stuff. They are feeling animals.
And octopus can feel pain.
Yeah, octopus can feel pain. Fish can feel pain, but octopuses are actually quite smart. As you know, they've done a lot of research, not just Cy Montgomery, but before her. And they have it's a different kind of thinking they do, but they do think, and they remember.
Oh, they remember.
And they have emotions. They change colors when they, if they're angry or scared or affectionate, and that changed entirely my opinion about knifing into one of those tentacles, which I just thought were delicious when they're grilled. I kind of wonder about squid. I love squid too, but aren't they kind of related? I'm beginning to worry about squid.
I know, me too.
Calamari.
Yeah,
Rhode Island State, something or other state.
I don't know what my opinion is on that yet.
So so it's why I stopped eating unless it was served, at someone's house to be polite steak. and chicken. I don't like chicken. These are feeling animals. In fact, octopuses, if you read this book, they seem considerably more intelligent than most of the cats we've had. You know?
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, Whitcomb cats.
Yeah, I'm not big on cats anyway. I'd rather have a pet,
This
Burmese python or something.
and so the author Cy Montgomery went to the New England Aquarium to
Yeah.
do research. She also went to the Seattle Aquarium,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
which is funny
And
because
to Tahiti, too.
I haven't gotten to
Yeah,
that part
yeah,
yet.
yeah.
My book needs to finish downloading, so I wanted to talk to you about that a little bit because I thought that was fun. Talk to us about what's coming up in your upcoming column on Sunday.
Well, let me see, what do we got? Well, speaking of
You're like, wow!
marine things, the Northeast Seamounts, which is an area about 100, 150 miles off of New England, the Trump administration wants to let it be developed, which I don't think is a good idea because it's a very important habitat, as you know, and ecologically it's pretty important. It's a very small percentage of America's east coast offshore area. I learned after cobbling that together that the administration wants to actually open up for oil and gas drilling much of the American coast, offshore coast, the continental shelf.
You just talked to Kurt about that?
So I have, yeah, we
Yeah.
did talk a little
Yeah.
bit about that. He was relatively, he didn't think I don't think he thought it was going to go that far because some of the Republican governors of important places like Florida, they don't want that.
Yeah.
They're worried about tourism of the Carolinas and so on. So I thought that was interesting. Obviously, I talk about Trump. I know it's boring, but we've never had anybody like Trump before. And what troubles me, and they're kind of related. A, he's head of state, not just head of government under our system. And I wish he'd shown more dignity. He's supposed to represent the United States, not just himself or the Trump organization. The other thing, he keeps condemning the FBI and the Justice Department, the State Department. Most of the people that work for these agencies are very hardworking, patriotic. Some of them are in dangerous jobs, especially the FBI and the CIA. And I find it really repellent that he denounces these people who are working so hard, and I think generally with great integrity. And again, sometimes with courage, even physical courage, and denouncing an entire agency, especially the FBI, because they've been helping in the investigation led by Mr. Mueller, who was a Republican, by the way, as was Comey. I just find this distressing and repellent. It's somebody who should represent the country and the whole government as our leader. I just find that very upsetting. But most of my biggest problems with Trump have always been characterological more than policy-wise. I mean, I don't think the tax cut thing is going to help the economy that much. I hope it does, but I couldn't get that riled up about that. But his behavior, I think, sets a very bad example, especially for younger people.
I don't think you said, well, I know it's boring. I don't think anything about this administration has been boring.
It's extraordinary. There's nothing like it. I have a friend.
I don't think boring is a word
I have
that
a
you
good
can
friend
use.
who's very conservative, always, going after me, denouncing me for going after Trump. He voted for Trump. A very intelligent guy. We disagree on many things, but it's kind of hard to avoid. And before Trump came along, when I write columns, I actually rather rarely wrote columns about presidents. I write about other things. I write about the weather. I write about architecture. I write about healthcare. But it's such a extreme situation we're in. This is so very different than any other regime we've had, and so potentially destabilizing and dangerous to our system, to our democratic republic, that I feel compelled to speak out, even though no one reads me. I think they jump over to maybe to my book review or something like that, or the weather.
Somebody's reading something.
Yeah.
Me about you reading about octopus.
I'm gonna write about seed catalogs. I think next time.
It's always a fascinating
Okay.
discussion with you, Mr. Whitcomb. Thank you so much for joining
Sure.
us.
Happy
Your
New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year. The column goes up on Sunday.
Okay.
Always stay with us here on GoLocal for the latest news and information. I am signing off for the day. Please be safe. Happy New Year, everyone. Stay warm, and for continuous information on all things news, weather, politics, and much more, follow us on GoLocalProv.com. I'm Molly O'Brien. Have a safe and wonderful weekend. Thanks for again.